If you've ever looked at your salary and thought, I should have more than this, you're not bad with money. Australia has 12 specific financial traps designed to make sure you never quite get ahead. Let me give you one number before we start. $150,000. That's what the average Australian quietly loses in superannuation fees over their working life. Not from a bad investment, not from a market crash, just fees. Invisible, ongoing, compounding fees on money that was supposed to be funding your retirement. And that's just one of the 12 traps I'm going to walk you through today. Here's what makes this strange. Australia has one of the highest median household incomes on the planet. We're not talking about a country where people struggle because the economy is broken. We're talking about a country where people earn good money, spend what feels like reasonable amounts on reasonable things, and then look up 3 or 4 years later completely confused about where it went. That confusion has a name. It's not overspending. It's not a discipline problem. It's systemic friction. 12 specific financial costs built into the Australian way of life so completely that most people have stopped questioning them. Your mates don't question them. Your family doesn't question them. Your bank is counting on you not questioning them. What I'm about to show you won't require a financial advisor. It won't require a spreadsheet or a new app or a course. It just requires you to see the traps clearly for the first time. Because once you do, most of them can be fixed in an afternoon. By the end of this, I guarantee you'll recognize at least 3 of these in your own life right now. When you do, drop the number in the comments, because you are not alone. And the first step to fixing this is realizing that the problem was never you. Let's start with the most invisible one. Bank fees that literally nobody talks about. Open a basic transaction account at Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, ANZ, or NAB, and you think you're getting a straightforward product. You're not. You're getting nickeled and dimed through a system so normalized that the banks have managed to convince everyone it's reasonable. Monthly account-keeping fees, ATM fees when you use machines outside your bank's network, failed transaction fees, $3 here, $5 there. But here's the thing that really gets people. International transfer fees. You want to send money back to family overseas? $250. A transfer that costs the bank almost nothing to process, and you're paying the equivalent of a week's groceries to move your own money. The average Australian who maintains any international connection loses between $200 and $600 annually on these fees alone. That's $3,000 to $7,000 over a decade. Nobody budgets for this. They just see the charge appear and think, well, that's just what it costs. The second hidden cost is something called lifestyle creep, tied directly to your postcode. Move to Sydney's northern beaches, Melbourne's inner suburbs, or Perth's expensive enclaves, and your cost of living doesn't just go up, it explodes in ways that feel invisible because they're gradual. You pay 30% more for groceries at the local Woolworths and Mossman than you do in Western Sydney. Your coffee goes from $4.50 to $6. Rent in certain suburbs is so inflated that a 1-bedroom apartment costs what a 2-bedroom costs an hour's drive away. But you move there because your friends are there or the job is there, and suddenly you're spending an extra $500 a month just existing in the same postcode. Over 5 years, that's $30,000. $30,000 that disappeared because of geography and the invisible pressure to live a certain lifestyle in a certain location. Then there's the car situation, which is genuinely catastrophic for people who don't think about it in advance. Australia's transport infrastructure, especially outside major city centers, basically forces you to own a car. You need a car. And when you need a car, you're not just paying for the car, you're paying for registration, which costs $300 to $400 every year depending on the state. You're paying for insurance, which in Australia is weirdly expensive compared to other countries, often running $400 to $600 annually for standard coverage. You're paying for fuel, which fluctuates wildly, but let's say you're spending $200 a month on average. Then you've got maintenance, which people always underestimate. New tires, brake pads, oil changes, unexpected repairs. Most people don't set aside the recommended 30 cents per kilometer for depreciation and maintenance, so when the car hits high mileage, they're shocked at what needs fixing. A $40,000 car over 8 years, when you factor in everything, costs you around $12,000 annually. Most people think they're only spending on fuel and insurance. They're not counting the hidden erosion. Then there's the electricity and utilities trap, which catches almost everyone who doesn't negotiate their bills. You move into a place, the utilities are already set up, you just inherit the existing contract. Most Australians never call their energy provider to negotiate or switch providers because they assume all electricity is the same price and the switching process is too annoying. It's genuinely not. Your neighbors in the same suburb could be paying 20% less than you on electricity because they bothered to switch to a different retailer or negotiate their contract. The difference between a good deal and a bad deal on electricity alone is $30 to $50 a month. That's $400 to $600 a year you're literally just giving away because inertia and the false belief that prices are fixed. People don't see this as a cost they're losing. They see it as a cost they're paying. But that's the insidious part. Switching takes 2 hours and you save $600 a year. You're getting paid $180 per hour to switch your power company. Almost nobody does it. Now we move into the superannuation minefield, and this is where the real damage happens for most Australians. Your employer is required to contribute at least 11.5% of your salary into a superannuation account. That's money that's supposed to be for your retirement. But here's what they don't tell you. If you have multiple jobs throughout your life, and most Australians do, you probably have multiple superannuation accounts. You might have 4 or 5 scattered across different funds because you changed jobs and never consolidated them. Each account has annual fees. Some accounts charge administration fees, investment fees, insurance premiums all stacked on top of each other. If you've got 5 superannuation accounts with average fees of 1% annually across a $100,000 balance, you're paying $5,000 a year in fees across those accounts that you don't even remember having. Over 30 years until retirement, that's $150,000 in fees, not investment returns. Fees gone. The second superannuation trap is choosing the wrong fund type and paying for insurance you don't need. Most people just accept the default fund their employer puts them into, which often comes with insurance coverage for income protection, death benefits, and total and permanent disability. Sounds good, right? You're getting insurance for free. Except it's not free. The cost of that insurance is embedded in the fund's fees. And if you're 28 years old making $100,000 a year, you probably don't need income protection insurance that costs you $200 a year. But you're paying it anyway because opting out feels like you're rejecting safety. Then there's the choice between industry funds, retail funds, and self-managed super funds. Industry funds, on average, charge around 0.8% in fees. Retail funds charge around 1.2%. That difference doesn't sound like much until you realize that over 40 years, a 0.4% difference in fees compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Most people pay retail fund prices because they default into whatever fund their employer uses, which is often a retail fund because the employer gets a commission. Here's what makes this genuinely infuriating. Investment returns in superannuation get taxed at 15%. You earn 8% on your portfolio, but the fund takes 15% of that as tax before it goes into your account. If you were investing the same money outside of superannuation in a regular investment account and you earned 8% returns, you wouldn't pay tax on that gain until you actually sold the asset and realized the profit. Inside super, the tax is immediate and automatic. Now, super does have tax benefits when you retire, but for someone in their 30s or 40s still decades away from accessing that money, the immediate tax drag is a real cost they never see. It just silently reduces their returns year after year. If you've ever checked your superannuation statement and thought, wait, where did all this money go? Let me know in the comments, because you're not alone, and there's legitimately a community of people in Australia right now realizing that their retirement fund has been quietly drained by fees they never knew about. The fifth hidden cost is something called education inflation, and it hits families hard without them realizing it's happening. If you've got kids in Australia, you're paying for school fees if they're in private schools, anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 a year depending on the school. But even in public schools, which are free, you're paying. You're paying for uniforms, textbooks that never go down in price despite not changing content, extracurricular activities, camps that feel mandatory despite technically being optional. Then, once they hit university age, suddenly a 3-year degree costs $50,000 in HECS debt, which doesn't feel like a cost because you don't pay it up front, but it will affect that person's mortgage eligibility, their ability to take out loans, and their post-tax income for the next 15 years. A single parent with 2 kids spending $6,000 annually on education-related costs over 18 years has spent $108,000 on schooling before their kid even reaches university. Then there's the hidden cost of being part of the Australian middle class, which requires you to maintain a specific lifestyle whether you consciously chose it or not. You need to be able to afford a house or at least make a serious attempt at owning a house. The median house price in Sydney is now just over $1.2 million. In Melbourne, it's over $1 million. Even in cheaper states like Adelaide or Brisbane, you're looking at $600,000 to $800,000 for something acceptable. The deposit alone, even a 10% deposit, requires $80,000 in Brisbane or $120,000 in Sydney. Most people take 15 to 20 years to save that much, and by the time they do, prices have gone up again. But the hidden cost isn't just the mortgage, it's the obsession with property investment as a retirement strategy. Most Australians are counting on their house appreciating in value to fund their retirement, so they stretch themselves thin on the mortgage. They take on investment properties they don't really understand, and they end up carrying debt into their 60s that they never expected. The hidden cost is financial stress that's normalized as just being part of Australian life. The 7th hidden cost is car rego stacking. We talked about cars earlier, but the registration situation is genuinely worse than most people think. In New South Wales, vehicle registration can cost up to $560 annually, depending on the vehicle type. In Victoria, it's similar. But here's the thing that gets people. If you don't pay it on time, if you accidentally let it lapse by even 1 day, you're now driving an unregistered vehicle. You get pulled over, you get fined $500, your car gets impounded, and suddenly that registration fee turned into a $1,000 problem. More people than you'd think let their rego lapse because they forgot, they were between jobs, or they genuinely didn't realize the deadline had passed. The fine is automatic. There's no warning. Your car is just not registered, and the consequences are immediate and severe. The 8th cost is mobile phone plans, which in Australia are shockingly expensive compared to most developed countries. You sign a 2-year contract for a plan that costs $80 a month, which seems standard, but you're also signed into that contract. If you want to leave, there are exit fees. If you want to upgrade your phone halfway through, there are upgrade costs. And the thing that really gets people is that Australians pay more for mobile data than almost anyone else in the world. You sign a contract for 30 gigabytes a month, you use 35 gigabytes one month, and suddenly there's a $50 overage charge. The phone companies have deliberately designed these plans to make overages feel like accidents rather than predictable charges. Someone paying $90 a month for a mobile phone is probably spending more than someone in Canada or the UK would pay for a similar service. Over 5 years, that's $5,400 for something you could probably get for $3,000 with a better plan or in a different country. Now we're getting into the genuinely damaging hidden costs. The 9th one is the cost of procrastination around superannuation withdrawals and pension planning. Once you hit 60, you can access your superannuation, but most people don't know the exact rules about how to access it, what the tax implications are, and how it interacts with the age pension. So they either access it all at once, which creates a massive taxable event, or they don't access it at all and just leave millions of dollars sitting in their superannuation fund while struggling on the age pension, which gives them $17,000 a year. If you spend your 60s and 70s worrying about money when you had access to $800,000 in superannuation the entire time, that's a hidden cost measured in stress and diminished quality of life. And it happens to thousands of Australians because the rules are deliberately complicated and nobody explains them clearly until you're already in trouble. The 10th hidden cost is the Medicare levy and the gap between what Medicare covers and what you actually have to pay. When you go to the doctor, you might pay nothing if the doctor bulk bills, but if they don't, you pay up to $120 out of pocket, and then you claim it back on Medicare. Except Medicare only pays back about 80% of that, so you're out $40 and 40 minutes of paperwork claiming it back. For someone visiting the doctor 8 times a year for minor stuff, that's $320 annually that disappears because the medical system is structured to make you do admin work to get your money back. Then there's the Medicare levy itself, which is 2% of your taxable income if you don't have private health insurance. If you earn $100,000, that's $2,000 a year you pay specifically for the healthcare system, and if you're young and healthy, you might never use it. But if you don't pay it and don't have private health insurance, you get hit with the Medicare levy surcharge, which is an extra tax penalty. So you're either paying the levy or paying surcharge or paying for private insurance. The system is designed to extract money from you no matter what choice you make. Then there's private health insurance itself, which is the 11th hidden cost. Private health insurance in Australia costs anywhere from $150 to $400 a month depending on the level of coverage. A lot of people buy it thinking they're reducing their healthcare costs, but they often aren't. They're paying $400 a month in premiums. They've got a $2,000 annual gap where they have to pay out of pocket before the benefits kick in, and then they find out that certain procedures aren't actually covered, or they're only partially covered. Meanwhile, someone who doesn't have private health insurance can just go through the public system, wait a bit longer for non-emergency procedures, and pay nothing. The hidden cost of private health insurance is the false sense of security. People pay for it thinking they're protected, but they end up out of pocket anyway, and they're also paying the Medicare levy, so they're double paying for healthcare. The 12th hidden cost, and probably the most destructive one, is the cost of not talking about money with people around you. Most Australians never discuss money with friends, family, or colleagues, so you don't know that your mate is earning 15% more than you for the same role. You don't know that your neighbor negotiated their mortgage rate down by 0.3%, which saves them $1,000 a year. You don't know that your sister switched energy providers and is saving $600 a year while you're not. You don't know that your coworker put their superannuation into a low-cost index fund and is paying half the fees you're paying. This cultural silence around money means that everyone's making these decisions in isolation, and most people are making expensive decisions because they just don't know any better. The cost of this silence, aggregated across a lifetime, is genuinely in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's the one hidden cost that you can actually do something about right now. So here's what you do starting today. Go open your superannuation statement. Seriously, do it right now. Check how many accounts you have, what the fees are, and consolidate them into a single account with a low-cost fund. Call your electricity provider and ask if there's a better deal available. Check your car rego date and set a reminder for 3 months before it expires. Look at your phone plan and figure out if you're actually using the data you're paying for. And then, most importantly, talk to someone about these costs. Tell a friend what you learned. Ask them what hidden costs they've discovered, and start building a community of people who are actually paying attention to where their money goes instead of just assuming it's normal to be broke all the time in a country with one of the highest salaries in the world. The money's still there. You just have to see it.